Welcome to another edition of Radio Influencers, a podcast series we're doing for Radio Update. My name's Andy Meadows, and my guest today is Tirzah Thornburg, a senior talent analyst at the Center for Sales Strategy. How you doing, Tirzah?
I'm good, Andy. How are you doing?
Did I get the pronunciation on the name right, or was I
Actually,
close?
Tirzah.
Tirzah. Oh, dagnabbit. That's one bad thing about being from Texas, is our pronunciations are not too stellar.
It's all good. It's a hard name. Everybody gets it wrong. It's all
Yeah.
good.
So you wrote a phenomenal article for Radio Update about crafting an intentional company culture that I kind of want to get you to expand on. But first, can you kind of tell them a little bit of your professional background?
Sure, absolutely. I have been with the Center for Sales Strategy for about 17 years. And in that job, I've done a little bit of everything. I do a lot of coaching with salespeople. So, helping the right salesperson get into the right job, helping to coach them to be successful, helping their manager to find the right person, get them in the right job, and help them to be successful. So, I do individual coaching. Coaching with groups. So sometimes we have a group that's either a really functional team and they want to stay functional, or a really dysfunctional team and we're trying to fix that. So it's a lot of just coaching and trying to help people to see what their strengths are and
Hmm.
then use those strengths to be successful in their job and with their team.
Managing to the strengths. That's so important, but you can't do it if you don't first identify those strengths, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So we have talent assessments that we use that look for innate talents, innate abilities, because you know who you are. Either if you're highly organized, you're going to have certain strengths that are going to work for you, but it's going to trip you up too. If you're not organized, you're going to have to find ways to work around that and add in that organization. And so that's what we help people to see. Innately, this is what you are particularly strong at, how to get the most out of it, or this is an area where we can work around it to make it a little bit better.
So, are there personality tests within that, or is it just kind of how?
It's specifically strengths, it's innate talents, innate abilities. Psychologists will tell you that who you are as a person is set at about the age of 5 or 6.
Right.
So the highly competitive person at the age of 5 or 6 misses a goal on the soccer field and they throw themselves down on the ground and have a screaming temper tantrum. The salesperson at 35 knows that they're not supposed to throw themselves down on the ground and have a temper tantrum when they miss a sale. However, in their head, that's exactly what they're doing. They haven't changed that competitiveness. They haven't changed, how strongly they want to achieve, or, how responsible they are. Those talents, those strengths remain your talents and strengths throughout your entire life. How you react to them, the skills that you add to get the most out of those talents, that does change as you get older, but the actual strengths don't change.
Well, and that's one of the first things I noticed when I got into management. One of the big misconceptions, I think, whether it's on the sales side or the programming side, is we think there's one personality type that works for sales or works for on air, and that's not true in my experience. They're all different personality types that work. It's just you have to manage different personality types differently. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So you have people who, for instance, will just take sales. You have people who are really great at sales because they build super strong relationships and people will buy from them because they have this intense relationship. You have other people who are just so good at persuading other people. They tell a story and they get the other person on board. Some people are super competitive and they're like, I can't live with myself if I don't make this sale.
Yeah.
What drives them to make the sale, what makes them effective, is different for each person, but each person has a way of doing that. And then you do have people who are just, not best suited for sales. They don't enjoy it. They get into it because somebody says, hey, it's a job. And then they find out, yeah, but it's a job I don't like. So it's helping people to see this is how you're innately well suited. This is how you're going to sell naturally. And then how can we help you to be successful with that?
Would you say that's secondary to the money motivation, or it's on an equal bar? Because that's one of the other things we always look for. Is that person hungry? You know what I
Right.
mean?
And some people are driven. So some people are driven by money. They're driven by achieving and wanting the money. Some people are driven by competition. I want to be number one. I want to be the best.
Right.
There are people, I don't quite understand them, but they'll work way harder for a trophy or for a plaque
Yeah.
that they can have on their wall than they will for the money. And then you have people who are really driven by helping, by doing the right thing. So it's not about me winning, it's about my client winning. It's about my client being successful. All of those are drivers for having success in sales, for being really good at what you do, but how you approach it is a little bit different. And that's where having teams who understand each other's motivations is very helpful. If you've got a super competitive team and then you've got that one person who's not, they might feel a little bit, a little bit uncomfortable. The
Sure.
competitive people are like, they're kind of lazy. And the non competitive person is saying, y'all are kind of mean. And on the other hand, if everybody on the team is driven by doing the right thing for the client and being really responsible, and that one person is like, it's all about me, I want to make the money, sometimes the team looks at them and goes, oh, well, that's very selfish of you. And they're looking at the team and going, what is wrong with you people? Why aren't you money motivated? So it helps, particularly managers, to understand what motivates that team. What is, bringing it back to culture, what is the culture on our team? Are we a competitive team? Are we a high achieving team? Are we a really responsible team? It is helpful to know that, so that as you're appealing to people, you don't tell a non competitive person, come on, we're going to get out there and kill it today. And they're like, that's not
Sure.
speaking my
Yeah.
love language. Who cares? Exactly. And on the other hand, somebody who is highly competitive, if you say, we're out there to do it for the clients, they're like, who cares about the clients? I care about me. I want to win for me. So appealing to them in a way that makes sense to them, that speaks their love language, is really helpful. Knowing as a team, how do we like to do things? And then as a person, how do they like to do things? And then for the manager, it's kind of customizing their approach, customizing their encouragement, their how they recognize people, how they reward people to what that person really loves. It always makes me laugh a little bit. Some people are highly motivated by recognition. They want to be stood up in front of the team and just praise the heck out of me because I love that. Other people are really uncomfortable. Please don't do that
Hate
to me.
that. Yeah, some people hate it.
Just between us. You don't have to tell everybody. Just tell me. That's all I need. Some people, and I've heard this enough to make me go, wow, okay, it's a thing. Tell my mom, tell my spouse when I do a great job. And it's like the first time I heard that, I went, really? Okay. Give me their email address. I can write them an email. Why
Yeah.
not? At this point, I've heard it enough that it's like asking the question, when you're amazing, who should hear about it? If someone says, well, could you tell my mom? Sure. Give me their email address. I'd be happy to write to your mom and tell them how awesome an addition you are to our team. You get comfortable doing that, because everybody is motivated a little bit differently. And if you try and motivate them the wrong way, I mean, you tell the 55-year-old salesperson, I'll tell your mom when you do a great job, and they look at you like you're insane. On the other hand, if that's how somebody else really likes to be motivated, if you say, I'm not going to do that, what are you, crazy? They feel like, oh, well, you don't care about me. So it's really personalizing that recognition, personalizing that approach to the person.
Well, and I completely agree with you. That's one of the personalizing the approach is so important. One of the main things when I'm talking to managers and they're having trouble getting an employee over the hump on any number of issues, it's usually because they're kind of taking a one size fits all approach and they're like, this works on everybody else. How come this doesn't work on so and so? And that's exactly it. Well, you haven't touched on what motivates that person.
Yeah, exactly. And learning, and I mean, it's become a generational thing. Certain generations like to be recognized and rewarded, but you can't take that as an overall.
Sure.
Some people within that group love this, but some people within that group like something else. So it's really, we recommend, one of the tools that we recommend to our clients is what we call a growth guide. And it's talking to the person one on one, asking them a series of questions to get to know them as a person and what really is important to them. So some people might rate, having a relationship with their team really, really high. And other people are like, I don't care if I have a relationship with them or not. Some people rate money as just off the charts, 1 out of 10, can I rate it a 20? And other people are like, it's good. I mean, I do want money, but other things are way more important to me. By going through that with a new employee and also with employees that are tenured, because motivations do change. If suddenly now you have a family or
Because
you
your life
don't, and if
changes.
your kids are
Yep.
all right, if your kids have all gone to college, your motivations are going to be different than what they were when you had, little kids. So finding out from them, how has your life changed? How have your motivations changed? Helps to really personalize, how you're motivating them, how you're approaching them. Another thing that we recommend is finding out the other person's communication styles. And it always makes me laugh a little bit because we did this exercise as a team. And up until that point, we all had the inclination to add a bunch of details to our email. So I'd send somebody on my team an email and I would add all of the detail because I thought that was what they wanted. That's not my style, but I was trying to do the right thing for them. And then when we discussed it as a team, we found out we all like things bullet pointed. We're like,
Yeah.
look, just give me the facts and I'll ask for the details if I need them. And so we changed our communication style as a team. Suddenly we got way more effective. And it was amazing how much more quickly we got things done because everybody realized, hey, I'm just going to send that email, just the facts, a couple of bullet points. They'll ask me if they need more. Some teams, on the other hand, are like, give us the details. We love the details, give us everything. Or if one person is a little bit different, and I'll tell you, it was kind of funny. The CEO of our company at the time sent me an email and he asked me to do a project that he had probably forgotten about. And so suddenly it was a project that he's like, hey, I need this by Friday. And it really could have used a couple of weeks, but yeah, I had a couple of days.
Yeah.
But he says in the email, I looked up your style and I found out that you like things bullet pointed. So here are your bullet points for this project. And I felt so honored that he had looked up my communication style and knew I love bullet points. I ignored the fact that he was asking me to do something that was going to take a phenomenal amount of time and gave me very little time to do it. It works. It makes people feel heard. It makes them feel, hey, they cared enough about me to look at how I like to do things and they reacted to that. So it is really helpful to understand that for your coworkers, for your leaders, how do you like to communicate? How do you like to, have that, what does that communication look like for you? So that then you can adjust your style.
Well, and it also helps immensely in sales. I mean, because you're always trying to figure out what's the communication style of this client, because I'm trying to get them to communicate back and forth with me so I can, A, get a meeting first and then eventually convince them to buy. So that's a skill that's it's important all around.
100%. If you can get them to share, this is how I like to have things communicated. That is super helpful. I do tell people all the time, chances are they're not going to read past your subject line. So your subject line has got to be absolutely great and get their attention. If they do read past the subject line and open your email, they're going to read the first sentence. So your first sentence has to have everything that it needs to get them to continue to read. It's really important. The other thing with that communication style is, of course, the active listening, which is something that it's been a bit of a hot button this year. A lot of people are talking about it, really trying to listen intentionally and then repeat back. Okay, I understood that you said this. This is what I heard. It's a whole lot harder putting it into practice. It's easy to say, yeah, I'm going to work on active listening. A whole lot harder to actually do it. But it's worth the time to do a little bit of research. How can I get better at this? How can I really, again, intentionally think, am I actively listening to my clients? We tend to walk in with a list of questions that we want to ask, and we want to stick with those questions. Okay, I've got question A, B, C, D, E. The client goes off on a little bit of a tangent, and you're like, okay, but the next question is the next one in my list, as opposed to following them and saying, oh,
Yeah.
it's interesting that you said that. Tell me a little bit more. And so getting out of that, I have a
Yeah.
bunch of questions I need to ask, and I'm going to ask them, and following that client a little bit. You don't want to let them get too far off track, but a little bit, they may share something with you that's really important for you to know. And if you're married to your list and you're not going to get off track with that list, you may miss something really valuable and then wonder why that didn't go as well as it should have. And it's because the client was trying to tell you something you didn't
Well,
listen.
the amazing thing, I've seen this happen in real time when a sales manager is on a call with a new sales rep, and I happen to be there, and I see them reach over because they know that the sales rep wants to get back to their script, and the client's going, and it's like, hey, you just abandon your script for right now, and just
Exactly.
listen to them and get them talking. Getting back to culture, you wrote something that really jumped out to me in that article right at the top where you said every company has a culture. Unfortunately, that culture doesn't always develop on purpose. Can you kind of explain the difference between a purposeful and an accidental company culture and the danger of them?
Absolutely. So, intentional culture is typically it starts with leadership, but it doesn't always. It's what type of company do we want to have? What kind of atmosphere do we want to have in our company? We recommend thinking about the company's core values. What are the things that you're really focused in on as a company? What's really important to you? And it's not just buzzwords, it should be really what's important to every member of your team. So, if, for instance, on a sales team, integrity is one of your core values, then everybody has to sell in a transparent, honest way with integrity. And you have to make sure everybody's on board with that. That's what we're going to do. We're going to live out this core value. That's really that intentional culture. We want to have a culture of openness, honesty, transparency, or, we are, going to make sure that we're always doing the most creative thing for our clients, or we're going to make sure that we come up with the very best solutions for our clients. Whatever those values are, that will help to inform what your culture is. So, one of the core values for our company is that integrity piece. And when we look to hire someone, that's a big part of it. Is this person going to, have that integrity to, follow the company's lead? Are they going to do the right thing? Because if our clients are used to us always doing the right thing, and then you have somebody who's like, I'll do anything for the sale,
Yeah.
that's going to wreck that. I mean, one person not following that core value could potentially wreck it for everybody. So it's really important when you're hiring to think, what are our core values? Verbalize those. Don't just say, well, I think the core values are. As a group, as a team, what are our core values? What do we really need? It's not about everybody being the same. It's not about everybody, having the same background or having the
Sure.
same identity. It's really about, though, everybody having certain values that are important to them. That creates an intentional culture. Every company has a culture. It's just some companies it's not a great culture. So if nobody's ever given it any thought, it can become a problem. Really quick example, but my daughter just graduated from nursing school,
Hmm.
and she, while she was in school and doing her internships, was asking all of the nurses at the various hospitals, what's the culture? Do you love working there? If you quit, would you go back? And several of the hospitals offer phenomenal sign on bonuses. They'll give you $10,000 to start working with them. And their nurses were trying to scrape up the money to give it back because they didn't want to fulfill their contracts because the culture was so bad. And then on the other hand, the hospital that she ended up with, she said their nurses will go do Doctors, Without Borders or something like that, and they'll come back and they'll say, "Hey, the only place I'll work is, this particular hospital because they're just so awesome." So really that's, those hospitals that nobody wants to work for, they've got a culture. They are, everybody's always stressed. Everybody is always miserable. They're overworked. They're underpaid. They've got so much going on that they don't feel like they can breathe and they want to leave. The companies that have a good culture, they're thinking, how do we keep people, how do we work with their mental health? How do we make sure that they're staying physically healthy, mentally healthy, emotionally healthy? How are we trying to help them to enjoy coming to work as opposed to dreading coming to work?
Yeah, sometimes there's a reason why companies offer a really high signing bonus, and it's not
Exactly.
always a good one. If you have an existing company and you're not really confident what your culture is, what's the best way to diagnose your company culture and figure out what it is?
Absolutely. So, of course, I work with Up Your Culture, which is one of the divisions of CSS, and we do have a tool that will help you to, kind of work through your company's culture and decide, is this the culture we want or not. So that's a good starting place. But there are a lot of questions. I mean, honestly, if you Google company culture, everybody's got 10, 15 questions that you can work through. The important thing is honesty. Honestly, I mean, if you're going to say, oh, well, our culture is great, our culture is great. Of course, everybody loves working here. Of course, they look forward to coming to work in the morning. That's not going to do you any good. It's honestly asking people, ideally doing, some sort of a survey with your company that says, how do people really feel? Are they really thinking that this is a great place to work? But the most important thing is, don't do the survey if you're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
That's the number one culture killer. If you already have a shaky culture and then you do this survey and everybody thinks, wow, they're going to make changes, and then nothing happens, that really kills the culture on the team. The team really feels like, hey, you made me do this extra work and then you didn't hear what I had to say. You didn't care enough to say, yes, we're going to make some changes based on what we learned from the team. So it's doing that culture survey. And then as a leadership team, thinking, what can we do to really help, to really change things around a little bit? A lot of times, and I mean, we say this regularly. Everybody wants more money, right? So everybody say, "Well, if you paid me more, yeah,
Sure.
I might have a way better attitude if you paid me more." However, a lot of times, they'll say, "Give somebody a raise of praise." If you're recognizing people, when's the last time you recognized your team? Each and every person for something that they did. It's not, "Hey, thanks for showing up on time this morning." It's, "I saw that you did A, B, and C, and I appreciated it because." I saw how you reacted to this client, and I really feel like that was the best way to do it. Really looking for something that's going to be meaningful to that person, going back to what's important to that particular person. What kind of recognition is going to make them feel good? What kind of recognition is going to make them say, "Wow, my manager really cares about me"? Some people really like to have a strong personalized relationship with their manager. Some managers are uncomfortable with that.
Sure.
But really thinking about, how can I give them that relationship? There's been a lot of conversation lately about, Gen Z workers, and they got cheated. I mean, let's be honest, they really got cheated. They missed out on graduations and proms and clubs and all kinds of things.
Yeah,
They're
imagine
looking for
missing your
some
whole junior or senior year of high school,
exactly. Yep,
essentially.
100%. And a lot of those lifeline, I mean, I think about the people that I was friends with in high school, and yeah, I'm still friends with them now. I mean, I still catch up with them. If you missed out on a lot of high school, you didn't develop those friendships. If you missed
Yeah.
out on a lot of college, you didn't develop that. A lot of these people are looking for that relationship at their job. They, as a group, have really prioritized culture. They're looking for, does this group match, not just my ethics and what's important to me, but are they going to have people that are going to, want to be friends with me, that are going to, maybe supply some of that friendship that I missed out on in high school and college, and really make me feel like I've got a support system. I've got people who have got my back. So again, as a company, can you provide that to younger workers? Work buddies is a great thing to do. I've never had a work buddy. Every job that I've ever had, they never offered that. But when I somebody first introduced it, I thought, what a fabulous idea. What if I
Yeah.
did have somebody who 17 years ago had said, "Hey, I'm going to hold your hand and I'm going to show you how to do things. I'm going to tell you all the acronyms of the company." Because every company has their own language. And I'm going to give you a cheat sheet for that so that you understand what people are talking about when they're, reeling off all these different acronyms. I'm going to show you where the best place is to go to lunch around here. I'm going to show you, which conference room isn't always too cold. I mean, things like that that insiders know that nobody else does. Giving that to your new worker makes them really feel supported. It makes them feel like, wow, this company's got my back. And the younger group does need that because they missed out on so much of that, previously.
Well, and man, in radio, the language, our terminology in radio is unique to radio, but also depending on what company you worked at or what region of the country, we all call things slightly different, whether it's imaging or liners, and it can be so confusing to new employees when they start. And so I think that's a really, really smart idea.
It really does help giving them not an org chart, because a lot of times they are given an org chart, but the informal org chart. These are the people who are going to be helpful when you have a question on a certain product fulfillment. These are the people that you go to. When you have an IT question, this is your best bet. This person's going to really be able to help you. Things like that can be very, very helpful. And again, making you feel comfortable. I don't exactly know where to go when I have a question on A versus, oh, I know if that happens, I go to this person, they're going to help me out. That can be really, really helpful. Giving people, again, that in our business, we use this type of verbiage. Your clients are going to know it. You need to know it too. If you don't, you're going to look kind of silly. So let's make sure that you have this information, you have it easily accessible so that you're a little bit more confident. Ideally, we want new sellers to be really confident when they walk in with their clients. I'm the subject matter expert. I know what I'm talking about. All eyes on me. I've got something valuable to say. If they walk in unsure, if they walk in nervous, the client's going to kind of dismiss them. I don't know what they're talking about. So it's important to set them up for success from the very beginning. Um, Onboarding makes a huge difference, but also, hey, we've got your back. We're here for you. We're absolutely going to be helping you out. That's going to give them that confidence that they need to reach out to clients.
So getting back to radio sales, so radio sales is incredibly competitive. I mean,
Yeah.
they're fighting for oftentimes some of the same clients, and if you get that client, that means I don't, and we like that competitive atmosphere in a sales pit. But how do you balance that with still creating a healthy work environment, even though you want them competitive?
Right. I had one manager who had a brilliant idea. She had a super competitive team. And every morning when she would drive to work, she'd stop at CVS and get a bag of Hershey's Kisses. And when someone made a sale, they would stand up and they'd go, I just made a sale, give me a kiss. And she'd toss them a Hershey's Kiss. Now, you had people who had made a lot of money and did not need someone to give them this, what, 5-cent piece of candy. But it created that competitive culture. But a happy competitive culture, a supportive. When somebody got thrown a Hershey's Kiss, everybody clapped and said, "Hey, great job."
Yeah.
Using that competition to make people want to be their best, make them want to do their best in selling, but at the same time saying, "Hey, we do need to support each other as well." I mean, you're right; it's a cutthroat environment. You want to have that competitive nature outside the office, but inside the office, we want to make sure we're also supporting each other. Some teams love a leaderboard, some teams hate a leaderboard. How does your team feel?
Right.
Some teams really love to have, those key performance indicators set right in front of them. Other teams are like, hey, I know what I need to do. I'm tracking my own. I don't need to know what the whole group says. So finding out from them what makes them most comfortable, what gets the right sort of competition going, and they have to have that competition, but they need to have that responsibility and that relationship to balance it out. So you want to make sure you're hiring people who, yes, are competitive. They want to make the sale. They want to see their name up in lights at the very top of that leaderboard. But at the same time, they're going to do it with integrity. They're not going to steal someone else's client. They're not going to sabotage someone else. So there are other talents beyond that competition to look for. And again, think about your team. Is your team, hey, we do help each other? Yes, we're competitive. And yes, if it's a choice between you making the sale and me making the sale, I want it to be me, but I'm not going to do anything that's questionable, that's unethical. You do want to hire for that competition balance with those ethics, balance with that relationship. Yes, I do like my team to succeed too. I am a team player. A lot of times when you talk to people, competitive people tend to have played sports,
Sure.
and it tells you a lot what sports they played.
And we're
Were they
awful
one
at
on
game
one?
nights. We're the worst
Right.
people at game night. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. When your little kid beats you at Candyland and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I lost at Canada. The youngest kid always wins. And if you're competitive, you get inwardly very frustrated. Outwardly, you're going, oh, good job, sweetheart. And inwardly, you're going, can't believe I lost this game
Yeah.
again. That's just wrong. But yeah, making sure, when they were in competition, were they doing a team sport or was it just them? Is it a one on one, I compete directly and I just got to blow the other person out of the water? Or did I have a team around me? Am I comfortable competing on a team? Yes, I personally want to win, but I want my team to win too because I can't do all the, if I'm on a basketball team, I can't do all the work. I've got to have other people supporting me and I've got to be supporting them for the team to be successful. That's what you're looking for on a sales team too. So think about that. Yes, you're going to have, the LeBron James on the team, but you're also going to have the other players that are setting him up for success. And sometimes he's got to pass the ball to them because they're in a spot to make that shot and he's not. So do you have a team that's willing to work together and support each other? And then as you're hiring, are you hiring that person who says, yes, I want the team to succeed. I like being that team player.
Yeah, and I think in radio we do a pretty good job on the sales side, making sure we lay out, the individual goals for each sales rep, but also the team goal for the station or the whole group. But we don't do a great job beyond that. Like in the administrative positions and the programming positions and stuff, sometimes we have no set goal and definitely no individual goal. Don't you think that that would be better if we went beyond the sales team with some of those goals?
Absolutely. Um, Somebody who has, that strong drive to achieve. So being an achiever is usually a personal talent. I'm self motivated, I'm self driven, I want to be my best. I'm not as worried about what everybody else is doing. I'm focused in on my goals. But in order for me to be successful in any job where there's personal achievement, I have to know what does good look like, what does amazing look like in this job, and set my sights between the two. If I have no measurements, if I don't know, as let's say that programming director, what success looks like, what does amazing look like, I can't set my sights on anything. I can't say I succeeded today. I want to be able to look back on my day and say, I accomplished something. I succeeded something. I can feel good about myself because I accomplished something. If I don't know what accomplishment looks like, I get very frustrated. A lot of times people who are feeling a little bit overwhelmed, they're feeling stressed. It comes from not knowing whether or not they've done a good job. Their manager maybe says, "Hey, good job today," as they're walking out the door. What I do? What did I do a good job in? Can you give me some sort of feedback so that I can say I did a good job in A, B, and C, and tomorrow I'm going to work on these because I didn't do as good a job here. Feedback is super important in any position. How do you know if you're being successful or not? How do you know that you have achieved some sort of a goal and that, tomorrow you're going to have a job and they're not going to fire you because you didn't achieve? If you don't know what achievement looks like, you're constantly unsure. Did I do good enough? Did I do too much? Not enough? I don't know. And that can be very frustrating. And it leads to added stress. It leads to feeling overwhelmed. It can lead to some burnout because I don't know if I've been successful or not. And so now I'm feeling really stressed. I'm feeling unsure of myself. I'm lacking confidence. I'm lacking the ability to say, hey, when I go home, I can shut it off because I knew I did my best today. I need to know what my best is so that I can feel that way.
Yeah, and I think some of those same things that you mentioned and about like the kiss thing from some of that same stuff on the programming side and in the positions outside, all the admins stuff, but everybody loves those rewards.
Right.
I think you got to do a little bit of that. I call it. I have a system I call rewards and repercussions because there's a lot of things that we need to be doing in radio that we're not doing, and people are a little reluctant to adopt. So you can't just add all these additional tasks on somebody's plate and say these are now new minimum requirements you have to do without having some kind of reward structure tied to that. Like, hey, if you guys do all these and you excel, we're gonna reward you either financially or some kind of get together, something that will motivate them.
Absolutely. And it doesn't always have to be money. I
Right.
think a lot of managers and a lot of leadership teams and a lot of companies are always thinking, well, we don't have any extra money, so we can't
Yeah.
possibly do this. It doesn't have to be money. Verbal recognition. I've been at several companies who had a really ugly trophy. And they would set out the parameters for winning that really ugly trophy for the week or for the month or whatever. But people wanted that. They wanted the recognition. They wanted to set that trophy on their desk and say, hey, look at me, I got this trophy. And something as simple as that, some sort of recognition from the group that says, hey, you did a great job. Um,
Or a
but
parking spot. I mean, anything.
exactly,
That.
exactly, or even a company email.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't matter what the position is. So and so in in the financial department, this person in accounting did this. Everybody applaud them for doing this. Accounting people never get recognition. They never have somebody saying, hey, you did a great job today. Giving them that, hey, you know what? They just improved a system and it's so amazing and it's going to make everybody's jobs easier. Hey, let's recognize them for that. Something that makes them say, someone noticed, because that's really what people want is someone noticed that I did a good job and they brought it out to me. They said, you know what? Great job. We appreciated you because. A lot of times when you'll have somebody say, I've had people reach out and go, hey, you know what? I appreciate you. And I sit there and go, wow, that was so nice of them to say that. It means more. Saying thank you is great, but saying I appreciate you means so much more because it says, hey, I recognize that you did something and I'm taking the time to tell you. I appreciate the extra work you put in. Something as simple as changing that verbiage can be helpful. Something else sometimes, especially leaders, because they're very, very busy, will not put a greeting in their email. Instead of saying, "Hey, good morning.
Just
How was
right to
your
what we're, yeah.
weekend?" Exactly. They jump right in. I need you to do this. That feels bad,
Yeah.
especially if you're that person who has really high relationship and needs to have a little bit more. I tell a lot of managers just like, "Oh my god, I'm moving so fast, I don't think about it." Put a post-it note, on your monitor. Make sure there's a greeting. Make sure that you said good morning and thank you or have a great day. It's really simple, but it feels good
I
when
was
somebody does that.
I was absolutely that manager earlier in my career. One of the best things my wife taught me because I was very overwhelmed, busy. Everybody's busy, so cut right to the chase, quick, short little email. And one day I was talking about one of my employees, and she goes, "Doesn't he have kids?" And I go, "I don't know. I think so." And she was like, "How long's that guy worked for you, Andy?" And I was like, "I don't know, 5, 10 years, something like that." She goes, "And you don't even know if he has kids?" And it was really eye opening because it was like, well, in my mindset, I was like, well, what does that have to do with the job he's doing? And she's like, it has everything to do with the job he's doing. And I think that's incredibly important. I mean, that's one of the big takeaways I'm getting from you is that you really have to get to know your employees to properly manage them.
Well, there is a mindset with some managers. If I get too close to my employees and then I have to fire them,
It's going to be
then
hard.
that would be the worst thing ever. So I want to keep distance. I'm here and you're over there. And then if I have to let you go, I'm okay with that because there's a distance between us. But the reality is, firing somebody is going to be horrible regardless.
Regardless,
There's
you're
no
not going to
fun way
sleep the
to
night
do it.
before, regardless of whether you know them really
Exactly.
well or not. Yeah.
Exactly. And so if you do get to know your people, and what's so interesting is a lot of times when you really get to know somebody, you will realize, you know what, that they're not happy in this job. They would be happier someplace else. So talking to them about that transition, I'm sensing that you're really struggling. I'm sensing that you want to spend more time with your family. I know that you have X number of kids and you're trying to spend more time with them and you're having trouble balancing. Maybe we should talk about finding some of that work life integration that you can add into your life. A lot of times, what you're going to hear is, wow, thank you for noticing that. I have been struggling, and this
Yeah.
is what's been going through my mind. So, the more you know your people, honestly, sometimes the easier it is to have those difficult conversations because you know what's going to trigger them. If I say this, they're going to just fly right on through the roof. So, I'm going to avoid saying that to make sure that we can have a calm, productive conversation. I know that if I ask them certain questions, it puts them at ease and they say, oh, okay, this is going to be a productive conversation. So, honestly, the more and the better you know people, the easier some of those difficult conversations can be.
Yeah. So I know you're a mother of daughters, right?
Yep. Yep.
I'm a girl dad, and I'm a relatively new girl dad. I got a 1 and a 3-year-old. Any
Oh, wow.
advice?
Fun
Any
times.
any advice for a young girl dad?
Um, Honestly, just get down on the floor and play with them. That's what they're gonna remember is, yes, it's gonna feel when you let them smear makeup all over your face or, you're sitting there and playing Barbie dolls or playing dress up, in the moment, you're like, "Why am I doing this?"
Yeah,
But later on, when they're 18 or 22 years old, they're gonna remember that. Remember that time there was one time I let my kids get a brand new set of markers and then they wrote all over me. Fortunately, washable markers.
sure.
But they had the best time and we took pictures, and later they're like, I really remember that. I remember sitting on the stairs and, pretending to write words all over you. It's silly, but it's something that's really fun. Any experiences, they're not going to remember how much money you made. They're not going to remember the car or anything like that. They're going to remember the experiences going to the park, going to the zoo, playing dress up and having a play or something like that. Those are the things they really remember. That's what's really fun. I mean, girls are a blast. And you want to the other thing is keep the line of communication open. With my kiddos, we would read a book every night before we went to bed. And then
Yeah,
we'd go with the first one and the second one, we read two books. And that time at night when it's quiet and they're in an open place, when they're little, they'll talk your ear off. They're going to tell you everything. You're like, oh, please, I just want you to go to bed. Will you please just be quiet and go to bed? But when they're teenagers and you're
they're not.
begging them,
Yeah,
please talk to me, if you've got that routine, they'll open up and they'll tell you, and it creates a really good relationship. Parent daughter relationship is so much better if you can keep that communication open. So, yeah, that would be my advice with girls. Girls are a blast. So just, have fun.
yeah. That's some really good advice. And obviously, as a guy, we're always wanting to have a son to teach a sport. But man, being a girl dad has just been so much freaking fun. And I'm with you on the getting. I mean, it's the getting down on the floor. It's the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Getting down there.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it hurts my knees
Even
a little
letting them
bit.
give you a candy land,
Yeah.
that you got to do it.
And I also saw that you were an avid reader. Do you have any book recommendations for me, or anything that you've read lately that really stood out to you?
We have a company book club. We do a fiction book club, which is actually really fun because
Yeah.
we all contribute. Everybody's in a different place in life, so we'll say, "Hey, this is a really good book. We should all read this one," and then we'll read the same book and discuss it. We just read "And Then There Were None" by Agatha Christie, which some people read that in school. I read it when I was like 12 years old. And so reading it as an adult, I was like, wow, I missed a lot of things when I read that book the first time.
Yeah.
A lot of people have never read it. And so what we were thinking about was how many books are very, very closely related. They borrowed from Agatha Christie. So
Sure.
read "And Then There Were None," and then read the popular book right now is "One Perfect Couple." It's Ruth Ware, and it's very much borrows from Agatha Christie. So it's very interesting to read that book then with that perspective of, oh yeah, she did. She got some of this information from these previous books. So that's one that was really, really good. I just finished that one recently. I'm trying to think what else we've read that we really enjoyed. The Maid. I don't know if you've read that one,
Mm-mm.
but that was a wonderful book. I can't remember. Nita Prose, I think, is the author. It's a really good, it's a feel good book. You get to the end of it, you're like, oh, I'm just really glad I read that. It was really fun.
Those are
So
always
that's what we do a lot of mysteries. That's kind of our thing as a group. So we've been enjoying that.
I really like that you guys really live what you preach with having a book club and all the stuff that y'all do. When I had your colleague on, Kelly George, she was talking about they did a virtual like barbecue where one of them showed
Yes.
barbecue tips and tricks. So I really like some of the stuff that you guys do. We probably hit it at the beginning, but what's the best way for them to get in touch with you guys and find out more about you?
So absolutely. So if you're interested in talent, you can go to talent at csscenter.com. And somebody from the talent department will reach out. Or for CSS in general, it's the Center for
Mhm.
salesstrategy.com. And you can, there's all kinds of fun tips on the website that can help you kind of get started in, talent journey, a culture journey. And then also subscribing to the blog. We have several blogs that we all contribute to and subscribe to. And that's a good way also to kind of keep current with culture and with talent. You can sign up on the website for any or all of the blogs. And, once a day in your inbox, I think it's once a day, they'll post, there'll be a blog post of something that you might go, I don't really care about that. Or, oh my God, that's exactly what I was looking for. So it is very helpful, 2, 3 minutes, and you've got some good things, to either make your culture a little bit better or to try and find the right talent or keep the right talent. There's also a lot of information for your salespeople. Hey, here's how to successfully get that meeting, or here's how to, successfully find that prospect. So there's a lot of really great information on the blog.
Perfect. Yeah, and y'all have some really good writers too on
We
staff.
try.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I mean, one of my favorite things about doing this is I learned so much as well. So I'm hoping that people are on the other end of it, learning just as much as I am.
Absolutely. This was fun. Thank you so much.
Radio Influencers is a radio update production. New episodes are released on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern.